The film opens in a cemetery on a small island where a funeral is taking place. The sky is overcast and a strong wind howls through the graveyard. The mourners stand solemnly as a priest reads prayers for the deceased, but something feels off. The atmosphere is heavy, almost unnatural. Suddenly, the air crackles with energy, and an eerie mist rises from the graves. Without warning, a ghostly entity erupts from the ground. It's an amorphous mass of dark smoke and electricity, shifting in the air like a sentient storm. The mourners panic as the supernatural force swirls around them. One by one, they are engulfed by the spectral mist, their skin burning instantly upon contact. Some drop to the ground, their bodies charred, while others are lifted into the air, screaming in agony before disappearing into the storm. The priest and a few others try to flee, but the malevolent force chases them down, incinerating them in an instant. As the last victim falls, the storm dissipates, leaving behind scorched earth, smoldering gravestones, and a sense of unspeakable terror. The camera zooms in on the gravestones, revealing ancient markings beneath the moss, evidence that the land holds a dark and forgotten secret. The next morning, Sheriff Hal Miller is called to the scene after reports of multiple deaths at the cemetery. When he arrives, he finds burned bodies, some reduced to skeletal remains. However, there are no signs of fire, no accelerants, and no logical explanation for the deaths. He is perplexed but assumes there must be a rational cause. At the same time, Dr. Cara, a meteorologist and scientist, is conducting atmospheric research on the island. She has detected strange electromagnetic readings that coincide with the deadly event at the cemetery. She suspects there may be an environmental anomaly at play, though she doesn't yet realize the full extent of the horror. Ashley, meanwhile, is drawn to the cemetery after hearing about the strange deaths. While exploring the site, she senses an unnatural presence and hears whispers echoing from the gravestones. When she looks closer, she sees faint, spectral figures moving among the tombstones before suddenly vanishing. Frightened, she runs back to town. That night, the storm returns, moving through the town like a living entity. Unlike a normal thunderstorm, this one moves with intent, seeking out people and attacking them. The wind carries ghostly wails, and as soon as anyone comes into contact with the mist, they are burned alive. A group of teenagers, including Ashley's friends, are hanging out at an abandoned lighthouse when the storm reaches them. At first, they think it's just bad weather, but then one of them is suddenly lifted off the ground by an unseen force. His body twists unnaturally before he bursts into flames. The others scream in horror and try to run, but the storm surrounds them. Ashley, who had hesitated before entering the lighthouse, watches in horror as the storm claims her friends one by one. She barely manages to escape, running back to town to warn her father. Hal, still skeptical, struggles to believe her, but when reports start flooding in about more deaths across the island, he realizes something truly unexplainable is happening. Dr. Cara begins investigating the storm's origins and finds old records detailing an event that took place on the island decades ago. The island was once home to a religious cult that believed in purging sinners through fire. A group of islanders, accused of practicing witchcraft, were locked inside a church and burned alive as part of a ritual. Their souls, unable to find peace, remain trapped beneath the cemetery. The recent funeral, combined with a rare atmospheric event, acted as a trigger, releasing their rage in the form of the ghost storm. Ashley, curious about the island's past, visits the library to look through historical documents. She discovers an old diary written by a woman who survived the massacre. The diary details how the spirits vowed to return one day and seek revenge on the descendants of those who wronged them. Realizing that the storm isn't just random, but is specifically targeting the townspeople, Hal and Cara understand that they must find a way to put the spirits to rest before the entire town is wiped out. As the storm grows stronger, the islanders are forced into hiding. The ghostly mist is now capable of moving inside buildings, seeping through cracks in doors and windows. Several people attempt to flee the island by boat, but the storm follows them onto the water, capsizing their boats and dragging them into the sea. Hal, Cara, and Ashley realize they must go back to where it all started, the cemetery, to perform a ritual that will send the spirits back to rest. With the help of a local historian, They retrieve an ancient book that contains a purification ritual. However, they must perform it at the exact location where the original victims were burned, the ruins of the old church. The three make their way to the ruins, but the storm, sensing their intentions, becomes more aggressive. Ghostly figures materialize within the mist, taking on human forms, their faces twisted in rage and agony. These spirits attack relentlessly, forcing Hal to use a shotgun to fight them off, even though bullets have little effect. Cara activates an electromagnetic pulse device in an attempt to disrupt the storm's energy field. This causes the spirits to flicker and weaken momentarily, giving Ashley enough time to start the ritual. As she reads from the book, the spirits scream in agony, the storm writhing as if in pain. The spirits, realizing they are being forced back, try one final attack.